bought this figure recently in Tupelo, and he looked pretty good overall. Most of his paint was great, very little scuffing and wear. Limbs were nice and tight. There were a couple of glitches. On the top of his head, there was a little bit of rub off and maybe even a little white spot. And on the back of this arm, at the shoulder, there was factory paint. There was white paint that had dripped onto him. I was able to get that off with a mild solvent, and I actually swapped the head that came with him. Let me show it to you so you can see those glitches on it. One here, and one here. Well, two. I put the head that came with this one onto the previous one that I had that I thought was pretty good. So got one really good one out of it, and got this one who I'd kind of like to remove the head and give him this head to show that he's, Han with the hood down, as he's visible in some scenes of the movie. So picked up this guy, same place, about a week later before I was going to leave that area. And this one I had bought on eBay and did not realize that he had the bad leg. You may have seen this one in the video where I was packing up at the house in Mississippi. So when he came and he had the bad foot, I'm like, aha, you just got nominated to be the custom head donor for the hoodless Han in Hoth jacket. I wanted to show you one other thing. If you look at the colors of their shirts, their undershirts, this one is much bluer than this one. And I remember when I was a kid, my neighbor Craig got the Sears Cloud City playset, and his Han's shirt was always much bluer than my Han, who I got later, carded. So this is sort of the way I remember Craig's figure looking. For all I know, that is Craig's. He might have sold it, and it's made its way from owner to owner to me. Now this guy, I was looking at him, and I was like, well, can I pop his head off easily? I'm going to have to touch up the paint on his bangs either way. But these figures, the Hoth Han, had one sort of neck post design where you could pop the head off, hollow head, post from the body. And these figures have a different design where the head has a post that goes into a hollow body. And as I was looking at this figure, I realized the top of the torso is actually already splitting. So I wonder if I could just get it out, post and all, since the torso was slightly cracked there anyway. And I guess I just did on camera. Big thank you to Zach, who is holding my camera in front of my face so that I can have both hands visible in the shot. So now all we got to do is cut the post off of this guy and drill a hole in it, and boom, you will have the Han Solo without the hood while in the Hoth clothes. So this is the part in a custom when I'm always the most hesitant, because this is the point of no return. This is when I permanently damage the toy. And there is no going back, so that's why we chose the one who had a chewed up foot and a cracked torso and bad paint, etc. So this is the custom fodder here. Also, I get nervous at this part because many times I have cut myself. I even wrote about it in an early magazine article that I did about customizing vintage Kenner Star Wars figures. And I said to always exercise caution because the blade can slip through the plastic into the crude matter of the hand holding it and expose the luminous being underneath. That was early in my writing, when I thought it was clever to quote movie dialogue. And then after a while, everybody in the world began quoting movie dialogue, like on Facebook posts and YouTube videos and things like that. I still do it on occasion, but it kind of lost its charm for me. But, when I was in my 20s and writing that article, I thought I was so clever and so original. And just copying a movie quote verbatim is not really either. Alright, let's see what he would look like. Oh yeah, that's going to look pretty good once the hole is drilled. Now, you may very well wonder, well, why did you modify the head to fit over the post versus modify the post and drill a hole into the body for this neck to go into? All right, well, the answer is twofold. Number one, to modify this neck post to go in and out of a hole, it would have to be modified further. So either way, somewhere below this line, this action figure head was going to have to get modified in some fashion. The other half is that right now, this Hoth Han is restorable at any point that I want to pop his head back on. So all you got to do is boom, and he's back to factory. And once we modify this torso, that would no longer be true. So what we're going to have is a perfectly good Hoth Han who can sometimes be temporarily customized via this extra accessory right here, but is never permanently damaged. So that's the reason we're going to modify this piece and not this one. And I just realized that like less than a foot to my left was a brown Sharpie from a different project. So let me just go ahead and see what potential this has versus trying to match the paint. Can we just tint the flesh tone plastic? Yep, I'd say that's got some potential. Now, before I begin any dremeling and or drilling, seeing the damage to that Han's foot does make me think of a story, another one that involves Craig. After Raiders of the Lost Ark came out in '81, we didn't yet have any Kenner Indiana Jones figures. They had not come out yet. And we took a Bespin Han, and we made a little hat for him out of modeling clay. And we tied him to the back of a toy metal moving van. Matter of fact, I just saw one very similar to this a few months ago in that same antique store in Tupelo. And we drove him along the side street in my parents' house past the driveway, thinking, oh, this is awesome. It looks just like the movie. And then when we picked him up, his nose was ground down flat. The clay hat was gone. The undersides of his wrists, because he was in this position, this was all ground down, and the tops of his feet were ground down. So, yeah, I suspect a lot of people might have damaged Han Solo figures for that very reason, dragging him behind trucks a la Indiana Jones. However, there's a second part to this story, which was when the Indiana Jones figures did come out, Craig decided after 1/4 of July, like it's July 5th, we'll say, to take a firework called a snake and lay his Indy figure down on top of it. And it looked really cool. I will say it looked extremely cool as this carbonous black snake was coming out of the firework right in Indy's face. And it totally melted his Indy figure. Like the face and hat were just fused in one blackened lump. Now, I should stress it was an Indy with a broken thumb that we'd already replaced. And so it wasn't like it was a perfect figure. But still, I found it supremely ironic to remember that we damaged a Han, wanting it to be an Indy, and then we damaged an Indy too. So I placed a piece of tape around the drill bit so that it wouldn't go any deeper into the figure's head than this post, and drilled out with one bit that was much more narrow as my pilot hole, and then drilled in with this bit, which is roughly the diameter of the post, and nice tight fit. Of course, we'll have to retouch this right here one more time. And then we have a nice figure who bridges the gap between this outfit and this outfit. So vintage style custom using vintage parts. Thank you for watching, and thank Zach for videoing.